when you told me you're getting like the first or one of the first Broncos in California, I'm like, dude, can we get a little bit of feedback on what, or a little bit of a teaser on what's to come with your project that you got coming down the line?
Fronco Mark II.
Damn, I like that one.
It's more Iron Man-ish
There we
than the
go.
Mark II.
Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast here at SS Customs Under Wraps. I'm here with
It's your boy AJ.
AJ.
You know.
And we got a real special guest with us today. He's become a good friend of ours, and he's built some pretty badass rides that's got him to a lot of cool places recently. So introduce none other than...
There it is.
there he goes. Fronco, a.k.a. Frank.
Yeah.
With a Bronco, which is where the name came from. But you could take it on
AKA
that.
Frank. Yeah.
Frank. All right, cool. So we're going to jump right into it. You got the, when we first met you, Frank, you came in the shop and you had a muscle car and you wanted to do something really dark and sinister. So that will be our first meeting getting involved in terms of your origin story. So let us know a little bit about you and that first project, I guess, to get us started.
Sure. Yeah, that was probably like 2017, around that time. A little foreshadowing. I got that car right when the rumors started around the Bronco, which we'll talk about later, the Fronco Bronco thing. But I wanted to have some fun. I had a lease previously that was an Audi, and I was paying luxury prices. I had just moved out to California, to Northern California, and I was like, this is great, but I got a couple years before this Bronco's coming. I'm gonna have some fun. I wanted to get a fast car and a motorcycle, and I did that. For what I was paying for the Audi, I ended up getting a Challenger and an Indian Scout, and
Nice.
I enjoyed them. But I wanted to make it mine. It was a lease at the time because I had an intention of a different vehicle at the end of the lease, but I wanted to wrap it. And my roommate, actually, he put me on to you guys because he got his Tesla wrapped with a PPF, and he had come here first, and he was like, these guys are great. So I did my research and came in, met with you, and I told you I think it was something along the lines of I like the Punisher, and
I remember that.
I wanted to go black. So I think we inverted. It was a black gloss with a matte racing stripe, and I think we inverted it so that it was like a satin black with a gloss stripe. And man, that thing was...
It was pretty sinister, man. It was, I mean, the Dodge Challenger profile in itself has always been pretty cool. But then having the Dodge Challenger you were laughing about, Tiago's little escapade. He can't go in front of the camera, so he's trying to reach for all these films under the table going through this. It was pretty funny.
I'm like, what the hell is the shadow moving?
Everybody's probably looking like,
Bro,
what's going on with this guy? Why is he doing this?
He's climbing under the table trying to get
I
to
saw
the
it out the
final.
corner of my eye, but I didn't want to draw attention to,
Yeah,
I
it's
was like, what's going on in his shop here?
he can't hold composure for anything over here. But no, man, straight up, the Dodge Challenger profile is pretty kick-ass. It has a really, I mean, the body lines were good. I can see why you bought it. Everybody likes it. Some people refer to it as a boat. Other people refer to it as like,
Sounds
a
like one,
nostalgic
too.
throwback.
It is one.
Yeah, it is. It's big.
Yeah.
You had like a Mopar too back in the
Man,
day.
yeah, see, and that's what made me mad, bro. I had the true boat. I had the 300. I had the 300, and it was skinnier than your Challengers, and it made me so mad. But I love them.
Yeah.
I love the Challengers.
Yeah, but you had an SRT, and you also had
It
a
was
Hemi?
the RT Plus. It was a Hemi. Yeah.
So by the time we were done with it, it was really cool. I can't remember. I think it was Phantom Black Metallic.
Yeah.
Or it was
yeah,
Matte Phantom
KPMF,
Black Metallic.
I
Yeah,
think.
KPMF. And then we did a gloss racing stripes on it. And so just overall had a really sinister pull-up package. And I think you had that for a few years.
Yeah, I ended up having to buy it out from the lease because the Bronco got delayed. Sticking to my plan. But what a great car. I mean, honestly, for the money that I was paying, the power, the quality of the car, I really did like it. But
Dude, they're solid.
The plan was
they're solid
different.
vehicles. I thought about going back to a 300 because I sold mine just because I'm downtown SF, so you walk everywhere. I had my car garage. I spent $1,000 a month to keep a car that I didn't drive. I literally thought about going back to get that car because they're just solid vehicles. I mean, they all got the same interior, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just decent interior, nice pull to the power, like great vehicles. But you did say something that has me curious. You said that you'd already planned to get the Bronco. Did you know that you were going to get a Bronco when you got the Challenger?
Oh, yeah. I just didn't know when. So my first car was a Bronco, and it was a 93. It was big. You want to talk about big vehicles?
Yeah.
That 93 Bronco.
There's something
Eddie
to be said about
Bauer.
90s era.
Oh, yeah. It didn't give a shit. It was just what it was. And I loved it as a first car. I think we all kind of bond with our first cars. What was your first cars?
Ooh, that's a good question.
There was no bonding with mine. It was all fighting. I hated my first car, but it was great. It was,
Love hate.
It was a
Love
hoopty.
hate.
It's fun to talk about, but at the time I was like, man, this is a hoopty, man. I had a 2008. Yeah, I had a 2008 Impala. Transmission blew 2 months after buying it. What's the name? It was white and it had the ugly black leather bra on it. And to open the trunk, so it had 212 kicker CVRs in the trunk. To open the trunk, the latch was broke. To open the trunk, I had to play a song with a fat bass drop. And it opened like that. It was a hood hoopty for real.
That's a good party trick, too.
Oh, but yeah, it was really
Yeah,
funny.
I'm sure it was. Now, mine was my neighbor gave me a 1979 Ford Futura, but it never ran. I never could get it to run. So I can't say it was my first running car. Then after that,
You had it.
yeah.
But
The fact that you have to make that difference there is like a first car versus my first running car.
The first car that I had that I was actually driving was actually a Plymouth Voyager van. It was a minivan. That's what I would drive to school. And then the first car that I ended up getting after driving that for some time was a 1990 5.0 Camaro RS. And that one was like a really cool car. I had some fun times in it. Yeah, we could say that. It was a blue, put white racing stripes on. I was in high school laying vinyl stripes, down on my car just because I wanted to have some racing stripes on there.
Yeah.
And did some other graphic stuff. And did a custom interior, did 212s in the trunk, HX squares. I remember Fosgates. Remember those? And it was slumping, man, going to high school.
I see you.
But and it was
had to
one
put a
of
sub in, though. I did
Yeah.
that in the Bronco, too.
for sure.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
And then I had two other cars in high school, but that was like my first official school in high school. I mean, there was a reason I had another car for that, but to be said with most boys in their first car, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So you were into vehicle enhancements even then. Even your
even
first
then.
car, you
yeah, even then, back then it was whatever I could get my hands on to work on car stuff, I would do it. So my only knowledge at that time was vinyl. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to use that, whatever I know, to be able to operate on this. And that was over. That was a cool minute, man. Yeah, high school days was a cool minute.
so you wrapped it yourself in high school.
Yeah, I did it. I did the whole design myself in high school, and then after that, I had other cars that I did other things on. But my first car, I automatically had to start, customizing it. I enhanced it instantly. So we put the racing stripes on there, did some other graphics package stuff. But overall, it was fun, man. It was a good time. And back then, a 1990 Camaro RS 5.0 isn't as cool as it was today. Let's be honest. It was like a 2-3K car, but for me, it was cool. And a lot of my friends who weren't even driving yet, they were like, "Yo, that's dope. Let's just
For
get
a
the
kid in
car."
high school,
Yeah, that was
pretty
awesome.
cool.
That was awesome. And man. And then after that, I got into JDM for a little bit, and then was a 80. My high school cars were that a 1987 MK3 Supra which was after that. And that one I had like on Neepers and did some other design graphics and stuff on there. Did, some performance mods. And then after that, my last car, which was senior in high school, and I worked throughout high school. So I was working pretty much every year. At 3:30, I was at work every day from freshman to there. And so by the time high school was over, I was able to get Pontiac Firebird. 2002, last year they made them. And that was that car I had for a while, out of high school and everything, up until like 2005. And had the next one. So,
there you go.
But first car, official driving, that was mine, that I can say was mine, 1990 Camaro RS 5.0. And I wouldn't mind, like you, going back in time. I still own a Camaro today, but going back and maybe even buying. Do you ever think about buying a 1993 Bronco?
I'm more tempted by the earlier ones that I didn't have, like the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, super boxy
Broncos.
ones.
Yeah, those things are rad, but it would need to be garage kept, and I would need to not have a roof on it if I were to go that route.
Yeah, those things have went up in price crazy, man. The older ones.
At the auctions. I've also seen them at some of the auto shows where they make them fully electric, and just like the way that they do that it's pretty cool. I mean, to me, it loses a little bit of the essence of what makes a Bronco, but just the cool things that you can do with just that old chassis. It's pretty rad.
One of my friends, Marcus at MFR Fab, he was like, let's convert your Datsun into electric. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. I mean, they come with like 80, 90 horsepower. He's like, yeah, it'll be like, 300 horsepower. So I'm like, holy crap, I can imagine how that little tiny just metal box is going to move with like 400, 300 horses.
Be a dart.
Yeah, man. It's just like instantaneously. I think I'll rip like the frame or something.
Parts of the car would be left behind.
I know, man. That's just, they weren't built to go with that much torque, but.
Somebody did a full Tesla conversion on a 69 Charger. And it's so wild to hear how quiet it is. And you can see like the full battery pack in the trunk and then like the little motors on it. And they were like, it actually got lighter by like 300 pounds by the time they were done with it, which everybody thought it was going to be way heavier, but ripping everything out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You would always think that, there was some, I mean, but it's pretty close to equalizing, right?
Yeah.
So it's not bad to just have other benefits there. But yeah, man, you jumped in and you were like, all right, you got this Challenger, you ordered a Bronco. And I don't know if you thought that it would ever turn into this type of project.
No.
But what was your early intention of buying a Bronco? Just because you had one in the past, you're like, yo, I'm going to put a deposit on the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I had this bond with my first vehicle. When I got rid of it, it was because for economical reasons. I was in college, I think, right at the end of college, going into law school. I was living out just outside of Newark, New Jersey, city driving. I needed to do something, and I didn't know how much more life it had left, so I got rid of it a little reluctantly, but it was the right choice for me. But I always said, if Ford comes back out with the Bronco, because they stopped making them in '96, well before I got rid of mine. I said, if they ever come back out with one, I'm in. And in 2004, there was like, I don't know, maybe a Detroit auto show or like one of the auto shows, they showed a concept. And people speculated, they're like, oh, it's coming back. It was real boxy. It looked like the old one. And then nothing, like radio silence for years. And then there'd be a fan render that would pop up on a forum somewhere, and I'd get all excited, and it would be fake. But I just tracked it over the course of time, and eventually there was a memo that leaked. It was a United Auto Workers Union memo that mentioned something about the Bronco production in the Michigan factory, and that was it. Like, that was the first true sign that it was coming. And maybe like a year or two after that, there was actual speculation to the date. So anyway, like all this stuff led up to I move out to California. My lease is up. I got a window of like 3 to 5 years. This truck is probably coming. And so I was like, well, I'll do the car thing. I'll have some fun. I'll drive the California roads, the Pacific Coast Highway. I'll use the motorcycle. But when this truck comes out, then I'll explore the West Coast, the western half of the U.S., and just do like the kinds of activities I was really getting into, which was like camping, the overlanding scene. that I've been doing with my cousin who moved out here, and just had a passion for that. And that's really what the focus was for the Bronco, was to get a vehicle that could take me places that I wouldn't ordinarily be able to traverse and go with just the car, especially a boat of a car, and use it for what it was made for. And then like when the Bronco actually, when Ford started putting out media about it and releasing information about it, it seemed to be this super capable vehicle. I got really excited, but the idea was go use it, go explore, and use that as a way to practice photography and do some landscape stuff, and that'll be that.
So what were some of your initial modifications to the vehicle to get it to where you wanted it to be?
Well, early on, so there was like this long wait period for the Bronco because of the high volume of orders. This is all, right at the start of COVID and supply chain shortages, and so it got delayed. But as it was being stalled, I was looking into some stuff that I knew, companies that made stuff for the Jeeps and Tacomas. One was a drawer system for the back, where you can store cargo, have drawers, a fridge slide, stuff that would be like real practical for camping trips and storage. Another thing, like I knew I wanted the wrap because I knew I was going to beat it up. I was going to take it off-roading, and I knew that the PPF would hold up better than vinyl because we had these conversations in the past. So the wrap was definitely right at the top of the list. I wanted to do that before I actually abused it and did anything to the paint and caused problems for corrections and whatnot. And a roof rack was another big one. Again, like storage, maximizing storage and cargo space. So I reached out to these companies when I just had a pre-order, and I messaged their Instagram and sent them emails, and I was like, are you planning on making things for the Bronco? And pretty much all of them were like, we can't wait. We think it's going to be really popular, but we don't have one, and we can't get one, and we haven't even seen one yet with our own eyes. A couple weeks or a couple months later, depending on the company, I find out that I have a build date, and the build date is the second week of production. And this is in part by the fact that I decided to go big, and I ordered the limited edition, the first edition Bronco, which was like, all the options that I can get. I was like, you know what, this is a big deal for me. I'm doing pretty well for myself. Like, I'm going to go after it, and it'll hold its value. That'll be great. But by chance, some of them were produced for California first. I think the first week was right out of Michigan. They drove them off the lots to the dealers nearby. And then the second week was a train shipment out here, and I got lucky. And when I knew that I had a Bronco coming, I reached back out to those companies, and I said, hey, if it helps you, you can use mine, do your R&D, do your 3D scans, whatever you have to do, and design your products so that we can get it to market sooner, because I knew I wanted it. And that was all they wanted to hear. It turns out that photography hobby that I have, it leads to some pretty good product photography, and making a long story kind of short, like one thing led to another. It was a mutually beneficial relationship that I created with these companies, and then they started introducing me to the other partners that they had in the industry, companies that weren't competitors, but that, the roof rack works closely with the lights company for the off-road lights because they integrate the light bar into their roof rack. So he introduced me to him. Because of them, I went to one of the expos and to a show, and I was the booth vehicle for that company. I met a bunch of other companies while I was there, and they're like, sweet, a Bronco. We haven't seen one yet. Can we get that and work with you on that? And so it's just been like a really fortuitous sequence of circumstances that I didn't expect, to answer your question, a very long-winded answer to answer your question. But I didn't expect it to kind of blow up like this, and I thought this would have to be something that I would build out very slowly over time, have to really be smart and careful about my budget. But I found really great opportunities and really fulfilling opportunities to work with some of these people and really get to know them. You guys included as well.
Yeah, man. There's definitely people don't realize, and I think we've had this conversation before, the power of being first to market, right? So when you get a car out there, and I mean, when you told me you're getting like the first or one of the first Broncos in California, I'm like, dude, you're already winning because you have a car there's no new model of it. It's not like you get the new body style. It's like has not been produced for, a good amount of time since the 90s, essentially, right? So you're bringing back a car decades later, and you get the first one in the state, which is like essentially the largest state in the United States in terms of economic value. So the companies you're working with are going to be like, that's pretty awesome because now we have someone that's in the state that we're probably going to sell a lot of our products to, as well as some of the other states, and somebody who's nifty with the camera. So it's always good to have some skills when it comes to camera recording, but just a massive amount of early opportunity from being the first person to own that car, because then your sponsorships become a hell of a lot easier.
That's right.
And you can easily reach out to people and be like, hey, I need this part, or I want this, or do you want to test or R&D on my car? And I can probably say that you probably had a pretty easy time with that in the beginning, right?
I would say yes, but I'm also very self-aware, and I think there's one thing that I'll add to your recent podcast. There's another influencer, the guy Different All Road, and I've known him or his account for a while because of you guys, and I've seen it posted. I thought it was great, and I think he had a lot of really good things to say. But when you have this conversation with companies, one thing you really need to recognize is it needs to be mutually beneficial.
100%.
Yeah.
You can't go to anyone expecting something or thinking that you're entitled to something because you're not. But if you have a deal of real bona fide value to add to them, and you have a way to be compensated for your time in the same way, that's how you play it. And
So how would something like that come across?
Well, first off,
Let's say I got the baddest, I don't know.
first thing you
roof
do
racks
is you
in
get
town,
a Bronco.
Right?
Okay.
And you got the
First
Bronco.
thing is you get a Bronco. There you go.
If you've got a really good product, I was mindful. I'll use my own situation as an example, but I recognized the power of the Bronco coming back to market, as you were saying. It's going to be popular. Ford emphasized the modularity, accessory ready. Everything was like labeled accessory ready, every bolt on the thing. So I knew that there was going to be an aftermarket that was going to, hop on this. And so there would immediately be demand to produce things for it. I found the companies that I truly saw their products and I knew they would be great. And I went to them with a pitch, which was, I can bring it to you. Not like, hey, come to me, or, I'll sell you, I'll rent my truck to you or something. I will just bring it to you. You can do it however long you need to. I think one company was like, we need it for 90 days. I was like, okay, I can't do that.
That's a long time.
This is my daily, so, that wouldn't work. But,
they were going to hoon your car, man.
oh, yeah.
They're going to go
It wasn't going to
off-roading.
go back together the same way for sure. But I said I would bring it out to you. I also had a portfolio of photography that I was able to kind of leverage and say, listen, like, this is almost not even the point, but this is icing on the cake. Like, I have this pretty iconic Bronco. I made it different. That was what Different All Road also mentioned. Having just that striping and that personal branding on it makes it very recognizable. So when people share it, people know who it is, at least in this world. And, I came to them never really asking for free stuff. That was also a big one. For the initial companies that I went to, I was willing to pay what it costs to get the right product and not compromise on the build. But the conversation was always around how can we work together on this, and an open conversation about it. So, if I say to you, like, I'll bring it out to you, usually they were very receptive and say, like, listen, once we test fit it, we'll definitely hook you up with the prototypes and you can keep them. And at that point, like, the deal was essentially made. If they didn't offer that, I didn't just close the door on it, because it was the product that I wanted. And if I wanted to continue a relationship and maybe get something else out of it later, I wanted to receive the product, pay for it, and still help them promote it so I can show value to them longer term. And that approach has also helped me out, where initially it was one thing, and I showed that value to them, and then I made a proposal for, here's content for product. It's an exchange, and this is the value I'd provide, and this is what I am looking for in return. So almost all of these companies, you can really have that open conversation. What you don't want to do is just assume things, and I'm just assuming I'm getting a free roof rack, so I'm bringing it out there. Certain details need to be.
I think a lot of people are out there for that reason, though. So the reason why a lot of people, like companies like myself and other companies out there that manufacture products or do services or goods for the automotive market, is they've been burned more than one time. So when people come in and say, hey, I want to get this for free, I want to get that, can you do this? I got friends, I can do this, I can help you, I can promote, and blah, blah, blah. A lot of it's just talk, right? So at the end of the day, you provide the service, or you provide the part, or you provide whatever it is that you're going to put on the person's vehicle, and you never hear from them again. Mm-hmm. So I think a good separator in that is to show your value up front. What you did was obviously have the first to market. So you got their attention right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, I'm here and I know you're going to pay attention. But number two, there was probably other people, a handful of other people around the United States that were also getting delivered their vehicles, which could have probably made this similar argument. Mm-hmm. So what separates you from all those other people is your value add up front. Hey, this is my photography. You check out how I do my product photos or whatever it is that I can do for you. And the conversation should always be approached in the sense of, what can I do for you? And as a byproduct, I'll get taken care of, right? And usually that's stuff I learned early on, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie, great book. Mm-hmm. But that one was probably a very solid principle that a lot of people really use to be able to go ahead and, make headway in the sponsorship game. If you can provide value to me as a shop owner, say, okay, cool, I'm going to be able to do this, and actually hold your word, it starts to change the framework in my mind of saying, okay, cool, I can actually trust and depend on certain people. I just have to be picky on who I choose to be able to carry our brand's name and to be able to actually do justice for us as a company. So, and I'm saying this on camera, but he's definitely held his end of the bargain. He's always shared his posts on social media. I'm sure people ask you refer clients over to us, and he's always had our back, whether it's something that we can blatantly see or something behind the curtains. So that's respectable, and I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, well, I where's the applause?
Well, he got the buttons memorized, boy.
He knows what's up, color coded, bro.
There is so I'm a short recap, but then there is something that he told me before we started that I would love for him to repeat. It's not even elaborate because he elaborated already. But short recap is, for them, he was first to market for the vehicle, and then Different All-Road was more so first to market for that lifestyle in that kind of vehicle, right? So nobody was doing overlanders, off-roaders in that kind of vehicle yet. So both of them are providing first to market in their own way. One is based off of the year that it was manufactured, and the other one's simply based off of the lifestyle that's going to be lived in the car. And then both of them touched on another great thing is providing the service and offering a service up front. So different all-road, he mentioned it before, he has specialties. He did, he got to keep it on the low key because, don't want to give away all the good trade secrets. But he even did mention, if you rewatch it, that he has a service that he is able to provide for them, and that was a major key in him getting ahead with doing these things. So same things with him. He has a service that he was able to provide them. So that's really important. But one thing that I would love for you to repeat for him and everybody else that's listening is I noticed that you were walking around doing videos, just kind of going across I was like, okay, what's up? Are you about to be marketing for us? What's happening? But then you told me a really cool story on what you're working on when it comes to videography for your truck and what you're wanting to include.
Sure.
You want to kind of recap that for everybody else?
Yeah, so I think we touched on this when I first came to you with the new project. And this new project, basically, this year I have some pretty big upgrades taking place. It's all centered around this mid-travel, off-road, high-speed suspension kit. And because of that, I need to also do some other things as a result. So wide body kit for the panels, which then need to be painted, which then needs to be wrapped to match. And so anyway, I know that I have these different stages of this upgrade, which are all going to be done by May. And some are companies that I've worked with in the past, like the tires, wheels, the wrap. Some are new, which is the fiberglass company that made the panels, the paint, and the suspension. But one thing that's been a trend for me throughout this whole process, and maybe I just got super lucky, maybe it's the industry as a whole, but I've met some really amazing people that run these companies that are small business owners, various size businesses, but I love their stories and what they do, and how they've gotten to where they are, the way they carry themselves, and the respect that their employees have. It's a side to these companies that people don't often see. And, I can post pictures of a roof rack as many times as I want. It's never going to tell people, what does that company embody in terms of its people.
Yeah.
And
culture.
Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do is a little personal project. I hope that it benefits the companies that I'm showcasing, because it has nothing but beautiful things to show about. So far, I've been to one. I shot it. It went exactly according to plan. I hope I can repeat it. But yeah, trying to put together kind of like a build journal and documentary style, little short episodes for each sequence of the build, and let people know not only did I choose these companies because of X, Y, and Z, but also they're great people to work with, and they deserve your business, and you should look into them. And maybe whoever you are working with, they might be great too. That's fine. But maybe you'll also get a different vibe when you're there and you're like, it doesn't feel like what I just watched. Maybe I should, look elsewhere. And, it's just, it's not to shit talk anyone. I'm not going to put down any other company.
Yeah, no,
but
of course.
the ones that I've chosen to work with, I feel really good about, and I want to share that back to people. So it's a creative project. It goes hand in hand with product photography and marketing, but it's not commissioned work. It's all purely out of passion.
No, that's an amazing personalized touch, to take the time to showcase not the product itself, but the company that is providing the product, and then how their culture is within the company. Like that's amazing. It blew my mind when you told me that. So that was really cool. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I mean, people are the most fascinating part of all of this. I mean, I got a sweet truck that I'm really happy about and really proud of, but the community, the friends that I've made, all the companies that I've worked with, I've been on like camping trips with all of them and at different times, and I've hung out. I've been on your podcast now. I'm part of the family.
Hey, we can go camping too, bro. Don't.
We should. We should.
TFTI, man.
Right.
But Yeah, it's just
too tall. You
and
won't fit.
I love seeing how things work too. Like, you know, the how it's made
Yeah,
videos
of course.
and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The
This
background.
is like how the company is made. And, you know, not just the way that wrap is done and the technical details of it, how you have to apply this stuff, about like when you're heating, what goes into the design work that I've gotten to witness. With the fiberglass stuff, it was like every stage of the process. It was the design of the molds, the crafting of the molds, the sanding, everything was sanding there for like multiple steps. And then seeing, you know, the different angles of it and all the different products, it's just fascinating to me. And I just want people to experience that, just as I want people to experience some of the trips I go on and the wonders of the world. Well, this is a wonder of the world too.
This is about to be a Netflix original. That's all I'm saying. This is a documentary, boy.
Now it's on video, so I really got to execute.
Yeah,
So,
no, for real, man. We got he's caught on camera. But yeah, man, I appreciate that, and that's major kudos to you, dude, for thinking outside the box, jumping up, and elevating yourself when it comes to your craft and your build and the backstory behind it. And as a byproduct, you're you know, taking care of all the people that helped you along the way, and making sure that whatever they're investing time and energy into your building project alongside you, they're also getting some type of benefit out of it, which a lot of times people overlook. You know what I mean? When it comes to people who are building, they just what is it in for them, as opposed to the people that are providing the service. And like I said, man, you're definitely been up there. So can we get a little bit of feedback on what, or a little bit of a teaser on what's to come with your project that you got coming down the line?
Sure. Yeah. So like this upgrade process that I'm talking about.
Yeah. So you're building this documentary. We've caught you on camera recording. You caught us on camera today recording. So
This is the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other.
Exactly, dude. Everybody's doing this. And now, coming full circle, the reason why we're doing all this, because obviously your build is evolving, right? So we're going to like
Fronco 2.0.
Sorry, wrong one. Hold on. This one makes me feel very insecure.
Give me that deep voice again.
hold on.
There you go. Fronco Mark II.
Damn, I like that one.
It's more Iron Man-ish than the Mark II.
Yeah, but that's where he's headed, man. So tell me a little bit about Fronco Mark II, because I'm not going to do the voice thing again.
Yeah. So the whole first year and a half that I had it, it was definitely functional upgrades. You could do the voice again if you want. I know you're itching. It was like cargo, things that would help me for the kinds of trips I like to go on. Because at the very beginning, that was the reason I got the truck, was to go out, explore, use it. And it was very capable at the start. You know, with the Sasquatch package and the suspension that it came with, it was great. It still is. But I have a lot more weight that I'm carrying now, both on me because of COVID, as well as all the cargo.
Wait,
But,
this is the wrong one. Hold on. That was the one I was looking for.
Okay, yeah. But so I needed to
that
boost
the rack
suspension.
that you had in there that I saw on SEMA in the back, when you open it up, I mean, to give you guys context, you can look up his build online at
Fronco Bronco,
Bronco.
Fronco.
You look at the rear, the whole Bronco's fully decked out with all kinds of gear. But just inside in the rear, when you open up the tailgate or the rear tailgate hatch or whatever, you have just this crazy array of a really well fabricated piece that you probably got from one of the sponsor companies you're working with.
Yep.
But I'm assuming, just looking at it, between everything else, you've got hundreds and hundreds of extra pounds added to your
Oh
vehicle.
yeah, I'm over the gross vehicle weight restriction or whatever. So yeah, so I needed to boost the suspension. But you know, as fate would have it, you know, you meet people, and at SEMA last year, the company that I was at the booth for, Trail Racks, who's the roof rack company, they introduced me to a partner of theirs that they were going to work with, and a guy that he actually went to high school with over at RPG Off-Road. And they are they were at the time in the design process for a mid-travel suspension kit, which was basically like when you see videos of trucks doing the Baja races and stuff, it's mostly that. Long travel would be like one step further, but a little bit overkill for my purposes. But I want to go fast in the desert and hit the whoops and not break anything, and also be able to support all the weight. So I met them. Because of word of mouth, because of my relationships with my existing sponsors, RPG was down to work with me, and I kind of brokered a deal amongst all the companies that would be involved by cross promoting, showing that they were part of a larger project, whether that be the body panels who wanted to promote their new 8-inch kit, which is the widest that they've made, and compete with the Bronco Raptor. And I came to you. I came with a similar pitch, and there's varying degrees in which these companies would be willing to work with me, and I knew that. But I wanted to kind of give them the full picture of where this is going, with a track record and references of the things that I've set out to do, what I've executed on, and that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to use my truck, and I've been doing it. And so long story short, I got a lot of buy-in. I got a lot of companies that were kind of amped up for the project, and it's going to be, again, kind of the first of its kind. The mid-travel suspension kit is brand new. I think they've maybe installed it on one vehicle to date so far, and I'll be the second, I think, to get it. The body kit, again, I think they did 2 before me. Don't hold me to that, but it's still new. I'm going to be the first person, again, to kind of put it all together and unveil it at the expo in mid-May down in
What
Flagstaff.
expo is that?
That's Overland Expo West.
Nice.
And so
Man,
I'll be there.
we're cutting it close, aren't we? Yeah, so we got Overland Expo in May, and you've still got some bare fenders outside.
That was
That I do.
nervous laughter right there. That was nervous
And
laughter.
he's got, I just overheard earlier today when he was talking to me that he's got tires, the mid-travel suspension's not been installed yet?
Yeah, so you asked, what are all the things? So it's the mid-travel suspension kit is going to be installed last. The wide body kit and air ram hood from Advanced Fiberglass. That was the body kit. I'll have the wrap done by SS Customs right here. Palladium, Nick on one of your previous podcasts, he's doing the paint work. Let's see, we've got new wheels from 1552, who is my existing wheel sponsor, who's got a little upgrade for me, the next iteration of the same wheel type that I had. Falcon is the tire company. They're upgrading me from 35-inch tires to 37s. Also, I don't want to make this out like everything is just free. I'm just running through it, and for the audience, there's different levels of different deals and different formalities and engagement and whatnot. So just because I'm saying it doesn't mean that any of this stuff is necessarily free. I just
For
wanna
those
be
guys
clear.
who haven't got car sponsored, I used to get a lot of stuff sponsored back in the day when I was first starting out. But there's full sponsorships, partial, quasi sponsorships. There's all kinds of things, and he's probably got quite a bit of different setups between all the different parts he's got on the car and different arrangements he has with different people.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think just because I got it that
It's
that's
going to be
available
easy
somewhere
for them.
else
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
let's remain a mystery on what my exact deal is. But these are all the pieces of the puzzle. And,
Oh yeah,
and the
people are going to
upgrade.
be curious, like,
Still the build.
what is this part? What is that part? So I appreciate you sharing. So you said the tires, the wheels, 37s with Falcons.
Yeah, because the suspension is designed for 37s now.
Mm-hmm.
So one note for anyone listening who's like, oh, if you go from 35s to 37s on the new Bronco, you'll break your tie rods. Not if you replace your tie rods and all of your suspension components that are designed for a 37-inch tire in that geometry. So that was also carefully planned out, and something that I used the advice of RPG, who's the experts on this subject. So it's just like, you couldn't just do the suspension. if I wanted to go this route. So I needed to go big, and I needed to plan out every step of it, and that's all the different phases now, which is really cool because it allows me to kind of narrate this story. And each one, I'm thinking, will probably be like a little mini episode of, tires and wheels could be one thing. The wrap can be one. The paint can be one. The fiberglass can be one. And then, the show and like the big unveiling will kind of be the culmination of all of that. And everyone that's participated, everyone that's helped me out, they can, showcase all of it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I'm sure
We'll
there'll be a
see.
good production quality. We're all going to be looking forward to seeing that. So, yeah, we're coming down the line. We got a couple months away before this next version of the unveil. We'll be getting our hands dirty here with you in a little bit for our portion of the project, which is coming up several weeks from now. So you got some work ahead of you, too, that you got to do and go from there.
I was going to say, this is a very important thing for people to realize is that for every one thing that you're changing on your car, for every one mod that you make, there's supporting mods if it's going to be a big enough mod, right? So everything that he said, there needed to be a supporting mod behind it, because a lot of people will think like, oh, I'm going to supercharge my car. And then, like, it's just putting a supercharger on it. Like, dude, no, then you got to worry about fuel rails, injectors, and, like, all sorts of other stuff. So this is just a friendly reminder, as you'll see with everybody that we speak to who make modifications to their car. If it is a mechanical mod specifically, there's going to be supporting mods. So make sure
you will be frustrated.
Yes.
Things break.
Yes.
You're going to be figuring things out all the time. You're fighting something that's been engineered at an OEM level.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you get it right, you'll be very, very happy with the results. So
That's another thing that I'm trying to capture too. I've always been very welcoming to questions in my Instagram, and I have a very concentrated group of followers who are very laser focused on off-roading and Bronco, and I get a lot of questions. And another reason why I love doing the in-depth look behind the scenes, I want to give them good answers as to, choices that they're making and educate them, because usually going into it, I wasn't really a car guy. Like that's the grand irony in all of this. I was a guy who owned a Bronco and then thought leasing a Challenger was fun. Like at the end of the day, I became one, and now I work for a self-driving car company. So I'm really a car guy, I guess. I have to just start embracing that. But
I'm not a car guy.
I remember the questions, and I want people to feel comfortable asking them to somebody, because if you don't, you're gonna end up blowing something up, or
Definitely.
Just not having the experience you want, blaming the companies for something that is not really their fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to go into it, and so I like helping to spread that information too.
And it becomes fun. It becomes like its own little puzzle. It's like, okay, I want to do this, but then learning how does this work? And it's like, okay, well, this works like this. Oh, but then that means I need this. And it just becomes like a little puzzle. Like, if you don't get frustrated at it, then it can definitely be a fun experience.
absolutely, man. I think, do you have any other questions you want to ask?
I'm just going with the flow, bro. I didn't even know what we was talking about today. So I'm just, we rocking. We here.
No, it was good, man. It's been a good conversation so far, getting into this, and especially showing our viewers like what it takes to actually be able to build a SEMA-worthy level car, and the tips and tricks there to get there, and sharing your build as well. I'm sure people are always asking, oh, what is this? What size tires you're running? What suspension you about to put on? So I appreciate you sharing some of those. And those big kudos to all those companies that are helping you as well. Do you have anything else you want to bring to the table?
I mean, I'm going to get to some of this stuff because I hope to come back and interview you guys. But I still want to know a little bit more about, this operation that you've grown here. I know that you've been around for a little bit. How did you start getting into this, and like what's your origin story? If you covered this already, then you could just edit this part out, but I haven't heard it, and I would like to know, like you had a history growing up. You said you wrapped your own car in high school. How did you know how to do it, and did you do a shit job looking back now with all the information you know?
Oh yeah. I did. The first thing I did was put racing stripes on the car, and this is how I learned in the beginning time, and they were decently sized and proportioned well, but the stripe in the middle would basically, if you looked at the gap and down the center of the car, it would go from like maybe a 1 inch gap and a 1 inch gap, and in the middle it would bow out to like 1.5 and then go back to 1, right? But those were all me learning the dynamic of film, like how to stretch it properly and do all this stuff. It looked great, but if you looked really closely, you could see that 1/4 inch on each side where it gets wider and this and that, and you'd be like, oh, now I see it. I can't not unsee it, right? So, exactly. But overall, man, it's that was a earlier part of it. But I grew up in a sign company. Long story short, and I was raised in there since I was a little kid. My parents started the company the year I was born, and I grew up under the counter, and I saw the signage industry. When I say grew up under the counter, people will be like, "Who's crying?" And there's a baby under the counter. So my parents are immigrants. They came here from Fiji Islands, and back home, my dad was a hand painter. So he started his own hand painting or sign company on the islands, and had a dream to come to America. He was the only person out of his 17 brothers and sisters that had a business. So he eventually got the opportunity to come out here with my mom, and they started, within about half a year or so, they started their own company. And yeah, they were in for a wild ride, you know what I mean? Granted, some things were easier back then starting a business in the 80s, but I watched them from a child growing up, what it took to be an immigrant to this country and all the hardships they had to go through and being broke as hell, and then growing up and seeing their success go every year over year. But what it took, personality type, to actually get it in terms of hard work, ethics, things like that. And so I'm getting a peripheral growing up, watching all this stuff. At the same time, they're putting me to work, as typical immigrant families do. So all you guys out there who are immigrant families, you know what's up. But I'm learning how to do everything from cleaning and everything there. But by the time I was 12, went to school for CompUSA. I don't know if you remember CompUSA back in the days. Learned everything about computers because it was new at the time for technology. And the programs were coming out to cut vinyl, and vinyl was starting to replace paint, hand painting stuff. And I saw the early technology of the vinyl industry through the commercial graphics window of seeing like the first plotters, the first printers, the first laminators, and all that kind of stuff. And I was always trying to use whatever I could learn to do stuff that I wanted to do, which was automotive. Mm-hmm. And so whatever I was subjected to learn, which was our family business, I tried to apply that. And the only thing I could figure out to apply was the vinyl side, the film side, the routers, the custom cut stuff, which we've kind of replaced with 3D printers now. We did the Fronco in there. Mm-hmm. But before, I would create
nice
that
touch,
on a router.
By the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If you pay attention to his social media on Fronco Bronco, zoom in real close to the grill, and you'll notice, and just pay attention to the word Bronco. And then comment under his thing if you find out what it is. But go ahead, go for it, bro. Go for it.
He doesn't even know.
Yeah, he probably doesn't.
Most people don't notice, and then when they do, they're like,
I don't know anything about. I'm about to go down there and literally just like eyeball his car because I've never seen it before. Like I don't know anything about it. I'm hearing all this stuff about it, so I'm about to go down there. Like, ooh, what we got here?
Yeah, absolutely, man. But back in the days,
a while, so
yeah, back in the days, I would router that stuff out on a router because we had a sign router to router out signage stuff, like foam letters but I would like router out like a Celine style rear deck for my lady. You know what I mean?
You think you slick? I see
Celine
what you
is also a contributor to this new build, which is kind of a secret, but I can say that much.
I'm a huge fan of the brand ever since I was growing up. It's definitely one of my top 10 like aftermarket builders. But I used to do stuff like that, and I would like fabricate this custom rear deck that looked like a Celine Celine-ish type of panel, and put it on like a Mustang or something like that. But I would just try to get as creative as a kid with the tools that I had to be able to do things that I love to do, which was automotive. And flash forward from the advent of this industry, from the very, very birth and beginning of it, I've always had my hand in there, to how far it's evolved and formed to today. And man, it's been a pretty wild ride seeing the first iterations of plotters and printers to full-blown automotive restyling projects where the industry has kind of evolved into, for at least this world of restyling. And this is the world I've always wanted to play in, but it didn't exist up until recently. So it's been really cool to see that whole formation of it. And I'm only excited to see where the industry goes and evolves into the future. But for right now, we've been pretty excited and passionate. And sometimes you flow in and out of the passion because it's work and it's business and you got to pay things and take care of stuff. But it's a path you have to traverse. We have to go back and forth. If you work in the industry, you know what I mean? And you work in the industry, and we both work. I do contract work for the same company. I have a panel sitting right there I got to go drop off. But yeah, man, there's you know how it is. You know, we're mixing work with play. They say if you do something, if you work in an area that you love or you're passionate about, it's not really work. And that's, for the most part, it's a true statement, but there can be times where it does start to feel like work if you don't know how to manage your passion for what you do as best as possible. So I have to constantly remind myself that, hey, man, what I'm doing, I got to fall back in love with it from time to time.
But you definitely hit on something that is hard to teach. I don't even know if it's possible, but you learned work ethic from your family and seeing that growing up. And when you combine work ethic with passion, that's where like really amazing things happen, and that shows through in your work. The attention to detail that you always have, the way, you know, I got to tell this story. When we were done with my Bronco, I had a different badge that I wanted you to put on, a different horse. It was a little skeleton horse by Bad Bronco, a brand online. And I brought that to you at the very end, and the truck was done. And you have such an eye for detail that you placed it on. I was with you. I was like, yeah, let's do this. You eyeballed it. You lined it up. You compared it to a photograph, and you stuck it on there. A year and a half later, I installed a reinforcement plate that goes on the back, and there's a cutout for the horse. And I was like, oh, there's no way this is going to line up exactly how the factory wanted. Sure enough, perfectly centered, exactly in the place where it was supposed to be. Perfect. And
Bars. Bars.
I surprise my goddamn self sometimes.
But it's just that, you know, you didn't take it. This is a little detail, but it shows the kind of work that you and your shop do, what you stand for. And it was just like you were careful about it. You wanted it done right. You did what you needed to do, and you had an eye for it. And because you respect the finished product, you respect what you're working on, it's a passion for you, and that's what you're going to do. And so you have an advantage there, but I see it in the guys that are here. I see it in this podcast. You clearly enjoy doing this.
It's all right.
I see your smile when you were setting up and you were ready to go. Your guys that are doing the wrap, you know, I was just walking around shooting earlier, but I've spent time in the shop when my truck was getting worked on. Allie, your designer, she's always smiling, always working on something cool, and I see her post on Instagram. Like, you give her the creative freedom to mess around with things, and I don't know. I'm just gushing about you guys, but it shows, and you know, again, like that's what I want people to see, because that just proves that they're going with the right person, in something that's like high value and something that you really care about, because cars are their passion. You know, their automobile is an extension of them, and they should put it in good hands. So,
man, thank you for sharing that story with us and the positive feedback. It's not easy. It's absolutely not easy to build a business with the everything that you would want in it. Just cultivate the most beautiful culture, right? It's a work in progress. Why? Because of something you touched on earlier. We're humans, and understanding the human dynamic in the workplace, where people are there, they have to be there, and they can't choose the people that they have to be able to work with. They are there for a common cause of getting a job in maybe the field they want, or being passionate about automotive, or just having a job period, whatever it may be. And you get to work with all these different people from all these different walks of life that may have never crossed paths or have a conversation ever before. And then to be able to cultivate an atmosphere where everybody's getting along and communicating properly and working together. It is a task, man. It is a task, and it's one that I try not to shy from and try to help develop with the team. And the team also has to put in the same level of work back in again. And you work in a much larger place. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine how that exacerbates over a huge like workforce of people. And you got all these different personalities, all these different types, and how to create a culture where it's still tight knit. And I don't even know if it's possible at that level, but you would know, to ask you a question like that.
I mean, I would also say that your character has a lot to do with it. And we spoke on this in past podcasts. I don't even remember which one it was, but character has a lot to do with it, because even when personalities differ, character is something that can be taught. Like, you can give somebody a good sense of character. You can lead them in the correct direction, and you've been naturally doing so. Because, like, I know you focus on everything else that needs to be worked on, but then the way you attack it because of your character, you're also leading other people in the direction of having good character in everything they do. So it is a large part of it, and that's something that's making you so successful in your leadership and in your growth so far. Because, like, I've worked with places same size, smaller, and then also a lot bigger, but then the leadership doesn't quite have the character, but they have the passion. They 100% got the passion. Like, they love what they do, everything else, but their character isn't in alignment. So then everybody below them is just getting shit on. You know what I'm saying? So the character is a very large part of that. And then you want to repeat my future tattoo on what your granddaddy said?
Yeah, man, my grandfather had a saying. I remember I said it in a few podcasts back or something.
Yeah.
But he was a principal in Fiji Islands, and he taught my mom same saying, and then he's mentioned to me once or twice in passing, but my mom used to really drill it into me. And he would say, money lost, nothing lost. Health lost, something lost. Character lost, everything lost. And it was something that was always drilled into me growing up.
That's good.
And
That's
it was
good.
I'm getting that tattoo, bro. I
good.
swear to God.
I think the all these old sayings that these old school cats have that are just simple, one sentence, two sentences, couple lines, and you just sit there and you're like, damn, that was good. You know what I mean? But because it just hits. And that was one that was always told to me growing up. Make sure that's you value things in the priority that they come in. And your character is something that you have to really hold value. Your handshake, keeping your word, how you greet someone. And it was like a staple for me. If I came over to I had a lot of aunts and uncles, as I told you earlier. Mm-hmm. So if I go to any of their houses, I have to like go in. The first thing I do is I have to go greet all my aunts and uncles. Yeah. And I had to do it, like respectfully and blah, blah, before I can go play with the kids. And it was like little things like that was always taught that you have to run it. So, and then you got the Southern hospitality thing, so you know what's up.
Well, you even mentioned it earlier. Like, one of the reasons that you got so much farther with a lot of I'll even call them partnerships, not even necessarily sponsorships, but even a lot of your partnerships. The reason you were able to get as far as you did is because you didn't just expect free shit. Mm-hmm. Like, you're just kind of like,
that's part of your character development.
Partnership is the right word.
That's exactly what it is. So it's like you went to them and you're like, hey, I can benefit you, and I'm not even asking for free stuff in return. I'm willing to pay for the product. I just want to work with you on this. And that's a lot of character. Your character shine there, and then it slingshot you forward. So character is just, I've said that. Bobby, I swear to God, if you put a counter on here, I've said character 100 times in 5 minutes.
It's worth noting, and that's actually what you're trying to explore on this podcast as well, right? Like, get to know the character, not only of yourselves, but your guest, and like letting that shine. That was another thing that we were talking about beforehand, but regardless of wherever this podcast goes, and obviously everyone wants to see it drive more awareness of your brand and see it take off and get tons of viewership. But you guys are probably taking something really significant out of this experience too. And the people who do watch it, they're getting it too. The people that you're having are creating relationships with you too. There is a value, an intrinsic value in what you're doing that no matter what, if you stop doing this after this one, because mine is a complete bomb, you still are getting some value out of it for your own personal lives. So it's pretty cool.
I love this. I love every bit of this experience. If I could do this every day after work, I probably would. I just love talking to people, learning, like, because I learn every conversation. I'm gonna learn something, no matter how small.
You're curious, George, man.
Dude,
You always trying to learn something.
Yes, man. Like it feeds my soul.
I think it's just your personality type, and he has that personality type where he's always. We all have that, like, kind of like deeper, like we want to learn something, and I think sometimes it fades as you get older. Maybe you get complacent with certain things, but you definitely haven't lost it. You got the burning desire for it.
I just want to pick your brain about everything.
I think if you're chasing your passion, something you're passionate, you're always eager to learn. Like, I want to learn something here because it's something you're very passionate about. So, which is why
you
you
be passionate about learning.
That's what it is.
I think that's one of the things that you definitely I've noticed with you for sure.
I'm not passionate about religion at all, but you see how far I've dove into learning about Islam and the Muslim thing and Ramadan and the whole nine. So I love.
Yeah, as we're recording this, we are fasting right now. So me and him, I don't know, we're a weekend. Yeah, we were a weekend. Yeah. So I haven't eaten anything since like 5 in. He hasn't since
yesterday. I don't eat breakfast.
So yeah, we're gonna break some bread after this. That's for sure. But yeah, man, character is a big thing, and Ganello's Italian, right? Mm-hmm. Or so you probably have that strong fortitude, I'm assuming, as they come up.
I think, I had a little different upbringing. My mom was not to get like all into the personal stuff, but my mom was a single mom taking care of me for the most part. She just had to work her job all the time, come home, make food for me, take care of me. She always provided. My dad was around and contributed, but, it was hard for her. And I saw that in particular. And, it instills something in you about the work ethic. And, it wasn't her passion to work for, the insurance agency that she worked at necessarily, but it was her passion to make sure that I was provided
Taken
for.
care of. Yeah.
And you do whatever it takes to pursue that. And that definitely is reflected in who I am. A lot of the themes that you guys are talking about, it's great to be first to market in, getting an initial deal or sponsorship or partnership. But what really matters is, I continued to provide value even after I didn't have an obligation to. And that's what creates stronger relationships with these brands. That's what gets them to want to look out for me and make introductions for me, because they saw that not only did I fulfill my end of the deal, but I did the best I could to go above and beyond. Those kinds of things speak more to character, and that character is what gets you. Keep the counter going. That's what gets you the positive word of mouth, the positive relationships, and leads to more opportunity going forward. So,
shout out single mamas everywhere. Shout out Mama Fronco.
That's right.
Yes, for sure, man. Mad love, and I appreciate those good words, and putting everything into perspective, man. Your character, like you had mentioned, goes a long way, and I think all the people that you've been working with, whether it's personal or professional life in this business, it's definitely shown and showcased. So we wish you nothing but the best, man, going to the future. Very excited to follow along. Absolutely, man. I'm very excited to follow along with your build, and we're happy to be part of it. From the early days of the Challenger to today, man, it's been a fun ride. And I'm very excited to see where you head into with the Bronco build and other builds that I'm sure that you'll be getting into in the future. Because I think once you catch this bug, it's kind of hard to let go, man.
It's like tattoos.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man, see, I never got the tattoo bug, man, because I got the car bug. So I understand all the tattoos I like are heavy realism. So they're so expensive that every time I got the money for a tattoo, I'm like, that's a car part.
Yeah.
So you got the bug because we were just talking about the tattoo idea. So
it's just overpowered. But
yeah. Eventually things will set in place and things will happen for whatever you want to get tatted, man. But
it's going on there. Your daddy quote or your granddaddy quote going on there. 100%. I just gotta figure out where.
Yeah. All right. For sure.
Why just one place?
I was
That's
thinking
a
about
good
too, because I was
message,
like, I could like kind of split it into. Look, don't get me started, bro.
Instigating.
Because I was already
man.
thinking like big on the back, you know what I'm saying? Come over a big old arch. So I'm like, something is a long word. Like, I don't know.
I got a great artist in Bali, Indonesia. Save you a lot of money.
Huh.
So we can talk after this.
Hey, man, I want to go to Bali.
Y'all
Let's
heard,
go.
it here. Y'all heard it here. What's up? Look. Hey, he said it on camera. That means it's got to happen, right? Isn't that what we said earlier?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Take this podcast remote.
There
Hey,
we go.
I'm with it.
I'm with it too, man. For sure. All right, Frank. How do they? I know we mentioned it, but how do they get a hold of your build and your story?
Sure. The best way to connect with me is probably my Instagram. That's Fronco Bronco, FRONCO BRONCO. You know, with all the video work that I'm doing, maybe I'll start a YouTube or something, but I'll be posting about it on the Instagram. So that's the best way to reach out. You can send me a DM if anybody's got questions about the build, the choices I've made, the people that I've worked with, or anything else really. Feel free to reach out.
There it is.
There it is, man. Much love. AJ, any last thoughts?
Man, character. It's everything. Get you places. I mean, y'all see what's up with him. Y'all see everybody that we've talked to, every subject we've talked about, even when it hasn't been listed, has been built around character. So definitely get you places. Follow your boy at what on Instagram? Because you don't ever shout yourself out, man.
Nah, I don't, man. I don't do that. But it's Alpha Rapper if you want to check me out online. Not the rapper, but actually rapper.
With a W.
With a W. And you'll get me on my social there on Instagram. And Alpha Rapper is my moniker pretty much everywhere. Any type of social platform you find, you'll find me at Alpha Rapper. And that's about it, man. I appreciate you guys checking us out. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe as usual. Show some love to Fronco and find him online. Man, thanks again, as always, for checking us out.
Appreciate
Much love
y'all.
to you, Franco.
Thank you
Deuces.
for having me. This is really fun.
One love. Appreciate you coming out, man.